Good morning, LinkedIn, YouTube, X. This is Deri and Colin from Honeycomb Consulting Skills Training with another live for 5 minutes on the question you see below you, which is something that came up in a session I was doing yesterday, where we were talking about AI and the people impact on AI and people in consulting. And this question came up like, what interesting AI tools are you seeing emerging for consulting, which is top of mind for a lot of conversations we're having currently. But Colin, what pops up for you when you look at that question?
Well, look, there's a few things, obviously, and lots of tools popping up. Interestingly, I was in with a client recently, and they talked about receiving a PowerPoint presentation from one of their junior team members, which looked beautiful, but had the text and content in there had been lifted straight out of a Gen AI tool, and neither of them actually understood some of the acronyms that were in their slide. And it was kind of an example of we're seeing a lot of application of Gen AI in the analysis part of consulting, and then a lot of manual effort in the PowerPoint creation. And something is not quite right there. I'd almost prefer to see it the other way around. I think AI is the maturity of the tools now mean they are immediately helpful in that analysis phase, and then a lot of the time is being spent in the beautification and the storytelling into PowerPoint. So therefore, I'm very interested to see PowerPoint-related tools starting to come up the curve a little bit, because personally, I prefer to see consultants saving time there in PowerPoint creation, slide creation, and allowing them to be much crisper and much more across the critical thinking, albeit Gen AI supported earlier on in the process. So I'm interested in some of the developments there. Most people are still probably feeling that AI tools to support PowerPoint aren't quite mature yet, but inevitably tools are coming up the curve. We're looking at, and without sort of any particular recommendation or affiliation, looking at things like Claude plugins into PowerPoint directly, and other interesting tools emerging, tool like Orcsy, for example. You can look that one up. That is designed again to accelerate the production of PowerPoint. So I'm particularly interested in that at the moment. What are your thoughts, Deri?
Yeah, well, I think it's a really interesting and really important space, because it's been frustratingly slow in AI tools that can actually generate consulting standard slides. And I see people talking about some tools, and I look at the slides it produces, and I'm like, well, they're pretty, but they're not consulting slides. They're not crisp enough. They're not precise enough. They don't have charts in. They're just text and graphics, and that's not the type of stuff that a lot of consulting firms are producing. The one that I've looked at recently, and credit to Victor Hung from Riverflex for pointing me towards this, is one that enables you to address this problem of hallucinations a little bit with different LLM models. So a lot of people, and we've all seen the headlines of firms producing outputs that are based on hallucinations and things that an AI tool has just made up. And Andre Karpathy, the ex-head of AI for Tesla, recently developed a thing called LLM Counsel. And the idea of LLM Counsel is that you can ask one question simultaneously of 4 or 5 different LLMs. So you can ask it of ChatGPT, of Claude, of Perplexity, of Grok, and Gemini as well is in there, and have one of those tools then so firstly you can see the answers of all of the different tools, and then one of those tools, you can pick which one, then synthesizes and summarizes the best view of the counsel. And I think that's a really useful way of quickly identifying if one of the tools might be hallucinating, if something is coming up. And I've found it quite useful from that point of view. One of the interesting things about that is in order to access LLM Counsel at the moment, and this is an indication of how early stage a lot of these tools really are, like the functionality is useful, but it's quite a process to actually install it. It's not a consumer-facing nice UI at the moment. You've got to install Python, you've got to install GitHub, you've got to run some code. Not that I don't know the code, but you can follow a set of instructions to do it, but you can't just download it as a tool that you can access immediately. And that for me is a sign that, and similar with your PowerPoint tools, this stuff is still quite cutting edge and not as accessible to non-technical folks as we might want it to be down the line. So I think there's some really interesting stuff emerging, and what I consistently say is, like, you've just got to play with some of this stuff and be prepared to say, oh, it's not doing quite what I wanted it to do. It's not as capable as I thought it might be. I'll revisit it in a few months' time.
Certainly, and I think, yeah, I mean, there's lots going on, isn't it? That it is challenging to stay at the cutting edge, and you can sort of see tools starting to emerge showing real promise like that. And in that example, tools that will help address one of the fundamental issues around quality assurance of Gen AI outputs. We're about 5 minutes as is tradition, but just to kind of wrap things up, obviously at Honeycomb, we're keen to support the consultant community in their adoption of AI. If you follow the QR code up to our website, you'll find a few different resources there, including a webinar that we're running next week with Adrian, a partner of ours at an organization called Spike, who are experts in AI application. And then we'll be facilitating some open course training specifically for AI use in consulting. That's out in May. Again, you can find more details of that via our website as well. But excellent next step, come and join our webinar next week. And for that, we're over the 6 minutes, so we'll say thank you and thanks for joining, and speak to you on the next one.
Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.